And growing up in the church, I've heard this contrast, like we don't want religion, we want a relationship with Jesus. I don't think that's accurate enough. Because people can have a relationship with religiosity. I think Jesus is inviting us to something way more intimate, way more personal, a closeness. I think that's what Jesus is doing here in these contrasts. He's saying, your Father, and your Father sees in secret will reward you. And then in verse 7, he says, and when you pray, again, when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that you will be heard, or they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Okay, so, and when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases like the Gentiles do. Who are the Gentiles? The Gentiles were non-Jewish people. Now, back then, the primary group being called Gentiles would be called Hellenists, and they were the Greeks. And they had a whole pantheon of gods that they prayed to. They were polytheistic. And so when they were praying to all of these gods. So you don't have to pray like that. Why? Well, because what he said before, you are praying to a personal God. Your Father who knows you. And then it says in verse 8, do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Now that can trip you up. If you're just reading that out of context, that can say, well, if God knows what I need, then why do I even pray? And in your mind, because that's probably because your idea of the purpose of prayer is to tell God what you need, and so you can get what you need from God. And I want to challenge you that if you think that the purpose of prayer is to have God fix your problems, and you believe that God is sovereign and he knows all your needs, it is illogical for you to hold both of those beliefs at the same time, because it wouldn't make sense to pray. So I want you to open your mind and say, maybe it means something else. Because when Jesus is saying, your Father already knows what you need, the Gentiles don't have a relationship with a God that knows what they need. The relationship that the Gentiles had, the Hellenists, with all their Greek gods would have been, O God of thunder, please have mercy. O God of rain, please have mercy on my crops. And you are praying. Most of the prayers of the Greeks were petitions to the gods to get them to listen or to get them to answer their prayer. And it was begging and pleading with God. That's why Greek writing, you ever seen Homer's Iliad? It was written 700 to 800 BC. What do we know about Homer's Iliad without even opening it? You look at it and go, that's big. Most of it's just rhetorical, trying to appease and explain how people are trying to appease and plead with gods. And that's what Greek writing to gods was about. Greek prayer to gods was about that. So now that you have that, you read this and you go, don't be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Your Father is already there to hear. You don't have to convince God to listen to you because he already is. So because you might think, I don't need to pray because he already knows what I need. No, the fact that he already knows is the exact reason why you pray. Because it's personal, it's real, and it's authentic.